It's me again. I'm back for part two. I've got my laptop plugged in to charge. It seems to be having some issues uploading to YouTube, so I'm hoping that this is not for naught, but either way, I will figure out a way to get this information to you because that's what I do. Okay, so let's talk about how to use these verbs. So previously in the first video, we talked about the meanings of those verbs. Um, and I'm going to give you some information written about how to memorize those verbs and also some practice activities. But obviously, what you want to do with a verb is to conjugate it and use it to make sentences. And so, three simple steps to conjugating any of these ER verbs. So I've just thrown one up here, just one at random that I thought would be a fun one because don't say everybody likes dancing, right? Whether you like to do it or you like to watch it. People love like that dancing show on TV and all these kind of things. Okay, so when you conjugate an ER verb, it's very simple because there are three simple steps to conjugating it to find success. And as always, you know how much I like violence. So step one, if I'm going to use the red marker to show you, is going to be kill the ER. So I'm just killing it completely. It is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. Like, see you later, ER. We don't need you. The verb by itself, as you know, is called the infinitive, but we killed the ER. So it's no longer an infinitive. Now we are left with this little business. EANS. That is what is called our verb stem. Some teachers do call it a verb root. Either way, it's part of a plant, and I would accept you calling it whatever you're comfortable with. I've always called it the verb stem, but you know, you do you, whatever works in your brain. Okay, so step one, kill the ER. Did that. Step two, we find our stem and we bring it down to each of our 6 places. This is the only part that's actually hard because you have to write the same thing 6 times. So, oh, look, I'm already getting tired. Oh my goodness, my arm might fall off. I'm gonna have to take a break. I need some tea. This is crazy. Does anyone have lemonade? Okay, so I've done all of this. I've got all of my step 2. And then step 3 is to add my endings. The appropriate ending matches up to the subject pronoun, which you will find on this paper right here at the top. But you've just got to memorize those 6 endings. You memorize the 3 steps and the 6 endings, and you're golden on these. But the endings are for je, it's je danse. For tu, it's es, es. For il or else singular, it's Then for nous, it's ons. And here's what's wild. Every verb in the entire language, other than être, has ons as the ending on the new form. These ones can vary. Your mileage may vary with these verbs, but the plural ones are always the same. Nous, it's always ons. Vous, it's always oz. Aside from the verb être, it's always oz. Okay, aside from the big 4 verbs. So regular verbs, so the vast majority of verbs, oz is going to be your ending. And you know what? It's really easy to remember that one. You're welcome. Okay, for il and el plural, it is always going to be ent. And you know what's wild about that? It's totally silent. Those 3 letters, they're not even there. You're not even going to say them. They're just there to look good, basically. So we've got it conjugated. We followed our 3 simple steps. Let's make sure we can pronounce all of these conjugations. I think you're going to be a little bit surprised by those 4 forms. But here's how it sounds. Je danse, je danse. Tu danses, tu danses. Il danse, il danse. Elle danse, elle danse. Nous dansons, nous dansons. Vous dansez, vous dansez. And il danse, il danse. Elle danse, elle danse. So what I was getting at is these, oh, I need another color for this. These four forms sound exactly the same. Danse, 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 danse. No difference in pronunciation. There are some spelling differences, and obviously you have to say the subject pronoun along with it. Otherwise, if you were to just say danse, the person has no idea. Do you mean you? Do you mean I? Do you mean they? Do you mean he or she? Or they all girls? It could be any of those because they all sound exactly alike, which incidentally is why in French we have to have the subject pronoun. It's not optional like it is in other languages such as Spanish or Italian, where it's already built into the verb, the different endings. They don't change the sound, so you have to know the subject pronoun, which is totally fine. You can do that. So basically, that's how you conjugate one of these ER verbs. Now, there are a few exceptional ones, as always. If the verb is one which begins with a vowel or a silent H, then we got to do a little something special when it comes to the je form, and only the je form. So if the verb starts with a vowel, like say aimer, aimer, we want to say I love, then we're going to kill the ER, bring down our stem. Oof, I got my colors all mixed up. And then add our ending. Our ending is but we don't want to make a glottal stop here. We don't want to say je aime. That's just very awkward sounding to the French ear, and even to my ear, that sounds very awkward. So to avoid that, we will elide it by killing that E off and adding an apostrophe or a sky comma, as I like to call it, and it becomes j'aime. J'aime means I love it or I like it. You could say j'aime Marc. I love Mark. Whoever he is, I'm sure I love him. Or it could mean I like him. You could also say something like j'aime la pizza. I love pizza. And that would absolutely work as well. It's not romantic love, but it is love for something. In that case, you would always use your definite article, though, because with objects, you definitely need your definite article. And again, that's only on the je form, and it's only verbs that begin with a vowel or a silent H. So if you're going to say I live in, if you recall the verb to live in is habiter. Oh my goodness, marker, come on now. I need team players. Habiter. So we kill the ER, bring down our stem, and add our ending. And I left it from the last time. I wasn't even thinking, but you do have to elide because that H it's silent, so it's as if the first letter is that A. J'habite. J'habite means I live in. So you could say something like j'habite une maison. I live in a house. J'habite un appartement. I live in an apartment. Or j'habite Londres. I live in London, or wherever it is that you live. So it could be used with places, cities, countries. J'habite la France. I live in France. J'habite les États-Unis. I live in the US, and so on and so forth. Then I've got two more very special verb categories that I got to tell you about. And they are verbs that are listed on your page there. They have a little asterisk after them, a little star to tell you, hey, there's something special about this verb. Our asterisk verbs end in either G-E-R, G-E-R, or C-E-R. There are more verbs that end in G-E-R and end in C-E-R than are on this list. There are tons of them, but those are just, I gave you a few examples of those, and that's why there's only a few on there. But GER verbs especially are quite common, so you definitely need to know this rule for the GER verbs. CER, there's not very many of them, but boy does it make a difference in the meaning of the word. It can sound like another not very polite and polite conversation word if you accidentally do this wrong. So be cautious with CER verbs. The GER verbs, you guys have 5 on your little list here, and those 5 are all of those guys do end in the GER, and so this would apply to all of them, what I'm about to tell you. So we'll just take the top one off the list there, manger, especially because it's everybody's favorite verb. Everybody loves to eat. If they don't love dancing, they for sure love eating. All right, and we're going to do just like we did with those other verbs. So our 3 simple steps. Step 1, we're going to kill that ER. Boom, it's dead, it's gone, it's out of our lives, we don't need him anymore. That leaves us with our verb step, mange, mange, M-A-N-G. So I've got to write that on each and every one of these. And again, this is where we get tired out of doing it. And you're like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I writing this so many times? Oh, I ran out of space. What am I doing? Seriously. Okay, so we've got our stem, and so our step 3 is to add our endings. So our endings are s, ons, z, and t. So if we follow our 3 simple steps, this is what we come up with, and I just want you to listen to how this would sound if I leave it just as it is. Je mange, tu manges, il mange, elle mange, nous mangeons. Vous mangez, il mange, elle mange. So I'm sure you noticed, especially because I couldn't help myself making a face because it sounded so awful, that the soft G that we had, the j sound that we had in every other place, including the infinitive, suddenly became a hard G. And that's because it's coming in front of an O. So when you put a G in front of an O in French, just like in English, it becomes go instead of jo. In order to preserve a soft G sound, we've got to insert a little something to make that pronounceable. And what we will insert is simply a little E. Oh my goodness, come on, marker. Get with the program. Mangeons, mangeons. The E, it's silent, but it's just there to allow you to pronounce that. And just to preserve that sound, it just makes it all flow so smoothly. So you're definitely going to want to add that E, and it's only on the new form of GER verbs. So this little rule only applies to the new, or we, form of GER verbs, including these 5 here that are on your list. So to say we eat, nous mangeons. We clean up, nous rangeons. We swim, nous nageons. We travel, nous voyageons. And we share, nous partageons. So that's what we do with our GER verbs. But we've also got CER verbs. And on your list, you actually only have one CER verb. I'm sure you guessed which one that is, because it's the only one on there that looks like this. It is the verb commencer. Commencer. So commencer again means to start or begin. Commencer. So we're going to follow our 3 simple steps. We're going to kill the ER. We're going to bring down our stem and get an arm workout in the process. Oh no, I'm going to run out of room. Why am I like this every time? And then we're going to add our endings, which is step 3. So je, it's tu, s, il and l, it's. Oh my gosh, I left off part of the stem. See, that's how tired I was from writing it. It's nous, ons, vous, OZ, and il in all plural is ent. Now, let's do just like we did on that last verb and see how it sounds the way it is currently written. So, commencer, je commence, tu commences, il commence, elle commence, nous commençons, vous commencez, il commence, elle commence. So every form of that except that new has that soft C sound, but because of the O coming after the C, that suddenly makes that into a hard C, and it makes you say a certain word that I'm sure you remember from last year is not a polite word to say to people, and you definitely don't want to say it in the middle of a verb because that's, somebody's going to get hurt if you go and say that, especially in public. So, what we got to do to prevent violence and international incidents and intrigue is to turn that C from a hard C back to a soft C. And I'm sure you recall from French 1 that there is one little accent that can do that job for you, and it's called a cédille. The cédille accent is just applied to the C like so. So, commençons. So that solved that problem right there with just the addition of one little accent, the cédille on commençons. And again, that's literally only on the new form of CER verbs. Commencer is the only one that's like that on this list, though there are others out there in the big world. All right, one more thing that we need to address is on the page 3 of this packet here. So the present tense in French. French is way less complicated than English when it comes to present tense. I know you're probably used to it being the opposite way around. Like normally, English is so much easier than French, but when it comes to present tense, it's just not. We have 3 different verb tenses in English for saying something that is covered by one verb tense in French, the present tense indicative mood. So for instance, here we have je commence. There's 3 ways we can translate that. If we see je commence written somewhere, if we hear someone say that, so it can be the general present tense, like present indicative, I begin. Okay, this is not a great example now that I'm saying it out loud. I think the one on here is a little bit easier to deal with, don't say, but we'll just go with it. So je commence, I begin. Like in general, maybe you're saying, I begin my homework every night by 5 p.m. That's what I start my homework by 5 every evening or whatever. It can also be the present progressive tense, which in English we make present progressive by putting a helping verb and then a gerundive form of the verb, which is when you end a verb in ing. And we generally start with a form of to be. So we say, I am dancing, I am eating, I am traveling or sharing. See how we're using the helping verb to be, and then we're using a verb ending in ing. So if we were doing that for this lovely example, it would be I am beginning, or I'm starting. Like your mom says, what are you doing? You say, I'm starting my homework, like right this second, I'm right in the middle of doing it. So it's progressive because I am progressing and getting it done. And then we have also what's called in English the declarative present. So we might say like, I do get this thing done, or like the example here, I do dance. Like someone's arguing with you and they're like, you don't dance. And you're like, yes, I do dance. So the declarative. Je commence in that sense would be like, I do start. Like someone's like, you never start your homework on time. And you say, I do start my homework on time. I start it by 5 every night. I do start it. So yeah, all 3 of those are just covered by this one thing. So that can be super helpful. Like if you hear someone say, nous mangeons, it could mean we eat, just in general. Yeah, we eat food. We are eating. Like, what are you doing right now? Oh, we're eating. Or it could be we do eat. Like somebody says, you guys don't eat peaches, and you're like, yes, huh, we do eat peaches because they're delicious and nutritious, then you would say the declarative. All right. I hope that clears up a little bit of the confusion. Again, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks for how to study these. Uh, if you have further questions, feel free to ask me to set up a Google Meet with you. I'm more than happy to help you with that. And I really miss you and hope to see you soon. Okay, take it easy.